This is a video about the creative process of how to write a song, how I write a song, and I hope it's helpful for you. Number one, I just like making sounds with my instrument. I believe that the beginner's mind is an especially powerful tool to have and to use. It seems like a lot of people who may know more or may know a lot, sometimes it gets in the way of a creative flow. For me, the creative flow is really where it all starts and where it all comes from, and where you get the finished product from. Creating, going into flow, letting the flow happen, and practicing, continuing to the point of completion. So maybe one of the first songs I wrote really just started out as a rhythm, and then I brought it to the strings and just played around with it, and then I said, where does it go from here? For me, I'd also been playing around with this, which is just an E chord, but I just moved it up. I don't know what kind of chord that is, but you listen to the sound, you're like, oh, what is that? What is the feeling? What wants to be said with that? So I have my rhythm, and I have a chord, a made-up chord, partial chord, a no-name chord. You invented the chord. And then I have words that I've written. I feel like, what is that feeling? What am I feeling right now? Started with the word broken. Broken to fit in the world. Born believer, and I am the only one. So I sing it around throughout the day, play it again and again, what works, what doesn't work. Usually I have a lot of words written down. And then by the time I have a final song, I'll have taken out most of those words to the point where it doesn't even maybe make as much literal sense as when I wrote them, in the hopes that it communicates to a wider audience, because now you are leaving room for the listener to fill in the spaces of what the song means or what the song is about. And then after a few measures in music, it would be measures, or you want to change it so it stays interesting for the listener. So where does it go from here? Well, I just played around a couple different chords, and eventually I came to which sounded like a nice resolution to this. And if you learned your chord, and much later on I learned some chord theory and realized that is indeed A minor from a F, are complementary in that way, and you can find a million videos on that kind of stuff online. But long before YouTube, I just, what sounded good. And I really encourage you to do the same thing. What do you like doing? And then, so the release, so I had a few choruses of this. And then the chorus, or the relief, was this. basically the entire song would go between those parts. But I like introducing an element of change to keep the song interesting. And you don't even need to change chords. You can also change rhythm. So you could start out with something like this. And then you could just make it, go much more simply and just go. Which is the same rhythm, the same time, but a different rhythm instead of changing a chord. Either way, the mind does want it to go somewhere. It does want it to change. And so I find that so your song doesn't get boring, you want to change it up a little bit. If you can see my fingers here, it's like an E, it's an F chord, partial F chord, partial E chord is basically what I'm playing. And then when I'm doing the chorus, it goes from A minor to G to F. The full F chord, which gives it a little more relief, and release to like an orgasmic release, a crescendo. The whole point of your song is important to me to have that. Although I do have a few songs that are just more of a mood, and I also make psychedelic sounds, which are more of a journey without really, they're not really a composition. It's just, where is this going? And then you just have to determine how it ends off. So that song, which just started with that, is actually like a Jimi Hendrix song. Starts pretty similarly to that.
Try to believe that people are good, given time, do the right thing. She seemed to be misunderstood, can't see through a mirror. See the truth between the tears. But lately my theory's been tested. All hope stopped and arrested. My words have been betrayed, tried on for size and thrown away. Betrayed, tried on for size and thrown away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here I lie, broke down again, hoping tomorrow I'll rise again. Try to believe betrayed, tried on for size and thrown away. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, here I stand, made strong again. If I fall tomorrow, I'll rise again. I'll rise again. I'll rise again. I'll rise again.
And that's how I ended the song, pretty much where it began. One thing I did want to mention in there also is, for me, singing was something that I didn't practice or even know I could do. But I remember reading a story about some Westerners who went to visit a village in Africa, and the couple of the members were like, they were doing a big sing-along, big singing gathering, and a couple of the Westerners were like, well, I don't know how to sing. And everybody laughed because they're like, what do you mean you don't know how to sing? That's like saying, I don't know how to use this hand. I don't know how to use this hand. And I found that actually, for me, starting to sing came out of necessity. I couldn't find anybody else who is singing. There's not a lot of people out there who are singing. And I said, well, if I want to be a songwriter, I guess I'm going to have to sing these songs. And it turned out that and for me, and maybe for you, it'll help, was that being very loud, like being very big. Right now I just sang and I was able to sing in not a very loud voice. But when I first started, the only time it really came out right was when I fully committed to it. And even though it did maybe hit a wrong note here and there, the rest of the time was surprisingly correct when I would commit to it. So I do recommend committing is the main thing you want to do. Whatever you're doing, is you want to commit to it. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing it all the way. I'm doing it the best I can. Of course, there's always going to be mistakes. That's part of everything. You shouldn't let that stop you. And indeed, dive into it. I hope you found this interesting, and give me a like, follow. We'll see you out there in the real world or in the digital arena. See you in the next world. Don't be late.